Jack Foley was the originator of Foley sound effects. Back in the day, there were sounds missing, and he said, hey, I can add a couple of those steps that were missing when they had to re-record some dialogue, because all of a sudden they're talking, somebody's walking, and it's quiet. So it doesn't sound right to us, so it doesn't sound normal. So then they started creating new sounds. And as we evolved, we started learning the different techniques of not just feet, but hand touches, handshakes, oh my gosh, so everything, body touches. All the organic impact sounds is basically what Foley is. Foley is used for domestic and foreign release. Is everybody familiar with a foreign release when you have music and effects and licensing changes? So then all the Foley gets put into the show, new music gets put in, new language gets put in. That's a foreign release, music and effects, M&E. When we do domestic, it's going to be ADR, so Foley will come in during the ADR replacement. Every character has its own pass, and I'll do footsteps of every character, and some shows require a complete pass. So when you look at some walk and talks, will have about 400 to 500 cues of just footsteps. They'll have another 300 just hand touches, maybe another 300 to 400 props. That's a lot of cues. Every cue has to be hand marked with a time, place, character. There'll be a conversation, two guys sitting around a hay bale inside the circus arena. You'll see two people sitting outside the tent talking, flap of the tent flapping over here, a rope snapping back and forth. There'll be a guy in the far back over here lighting a cigarette. Director comes in and says, hey, we need a pickup. What? The guy in the back lighting the cigarette over there. But the guy's over here having the conversation. This is where the focus is. The guy wanted the cigarette burn in the back. I call that job security. And I've been really fortunate for about 10 years. I've been with the same team. I've got a group of editors. I have a mixer, a sound supervisor, and we start with the cloth pass. Everybody familiar with what cloth pass is? So the first pass that happens in a film for me is I sit down and I watch it with headphones, and I'm looking at it, and in my lap is I have a bag full, or a lap full of cloth. It's a sample. So when somebody's walking, you hear that, but the subtle part that is missing if you don't ever do this is that walk. So it's my pant legs that are rubbing back and forth. So when you're watching a show, if you don't hear that, it's kind of a blank spot. So this is a really subconscious way to bring somebody into the scene. Now I've got a really good visual. I've watched it twice. I did the spotting session with the production company. Now I've done cloth. So now that I've got a good look at it, I'm going to put the cloth away and I'm going to go to shoes. And the way it works with shoes, a lot of people think you have high heels to walk high heels. Now I do have a lot of high heels, but I don't really break them out in public. You guys, some of you guys have heels too, I guess. So these shoes I've had probably 20 plus years. But if you listen, if everybody closes their eyes and just think that you hear a woman walking across the room for a minute. Then she stops. So these, what you can do, one pair of shoes can be a lot of different sounds. So now I'm in the feet section of a movie. And so I might want to tub it out a little bit, or I could make it a little brighter. Or if I'm walking a little kid. You know, a lot of times when we're doing extras and we have the 200 people walking by, you know, just one pass of that versus a pass of somebody walking by, or I see somebody walking and I'm matching their walking. So those are the steps. So as a sound designer, you would love to have complete control. So I separate everything. I mean, some people are like, yeah, you don't need to, but when they get the project from me, they know that this is the person's hands, this is their feet, and the props, this is their props. So there's no question I'm not marrying this with the hands, and the sound designer's going, how do I separate those? Drive you guys crazy. This is actually a gun rattle. Guns don't make noise. They just don't. If anybody has a gun in here, they know they just don't make noise, or you're gonna get shot when you're trying to get to the person. But movie magic does. So don't know if you guys can hear this. So this has been on ER, Third Watch, Scrubs, all kinds of, everything I've done. When a cop is walking with a gun, or a bad guy, this is what you hear. It's so subtle, if you play it really low, it's not the holster guns, it's none of this stuff, it's just the actual gun itself. So when he pulls it up, it's just that. So that really is a warming effect in your audio by bringing those kinds of Foley sound effects to a scene. A lot of people just pull a gun up and it's like this. Guy might be shaking his hand a little bit, but if he does it, you just might want just that little bit makes a huge difference. And it's not a cut effect. This is organic. I match every time a gun comes out. It's what this does. So this is a really cool prop. Anybody interested in seeing feel it for a second? It's got a little bit of weight to it.
What is it actually?
It's a boom stand. It's for a mic stand. So when you're gonna bring in Foley into a project, really think about your ADR list, go through your ADR list, talk with your sound supervisor, bring in the Foley team that you're interested in, do a spotting session, talk about what you want to do, get some ideas from the Foley artist, collaborate. And once you've got that, then you take the Foley artist takes the project, and usually will take anywhere from 3 weeks is a fast turnaround to whatever you give them, if you give them a couple months. Right now, I'm on a 3-week turnaround for about every project I do, which is crazy. So for every week, bless you. For every week of Foley I do, it takes 2 weeks of editing time. Something to think about. So if you say, I hire a Foley artist and you do this job, we've done it in a week, still needs 2 weeks of editing. It definitely is not going to edit itself. And when you have 1,500 cues that need to be edited and slide in perfect so that when you just drop them in and you're watching your movie and you're mixing, you got what you need. So a lot of times, I'll be walking somebody, they're walking on wood, we get the carpet. So I have a mic right here facing down so I can pick up both surfaces.
But you have the mic off the floor, right?
Yeah, no. The mic is off the floor and it's on a pad, so it's not picking up any vibrations. And the stage, so a little bit about the stage, just to answer that kind of a little deeper about that question is, I have my own stage and my dirt pit is 8 feet by 8 feet. And we cut out the concrete so we have no attachment to any concrete or any building around us. We are straight to the earth, all the way down. So for us, I can pretty much bang anything as huge as possible in there and not worry about picking up reverberations or the weird sounds that we hear sometimes when we're trying to get big, heavy objects to bang. I'm a stickler for quality in the way you get the step. If you walk, that's not going to sound good for you guys trying to design a sound. So you really want to hear that person walking. I say step loud and proud. Don't be afraid to make the step. Some people, I've worked with Foley artists and they're like, did you get it? In my school of thought, it should always match and be as organic as possible. I don't feel a sound should stand out where you go, wow, unless you as a director are calling for that. But if it's an action film, if a guy punches, he punches. He doesn't punch twice, he just punches once. And if it's a face hit, it's going to be that skin hit, but if it's a body hit, you're going to hear more of that. So I think sound should really match in my experience, and most 90% of the stuff I do goes straight to television every week. I've never had them say, wow, I need it to be so over the top that it stands out. I've done a lot of snow, and I'll tell you, my bag, cornstarch is part of it. I have particular type of pillowcases that the cornstarch is in. And those pillowcases are a particular thread count. That's the secret. seriously is a particular thread count, and they're not cheap. They're a really high thread count.
How about grass footsteps?
Grass footsteps, old 1/4-inch, 2-inch tape. I use AstroTurf. I use all kinds of weird stuff like that. Anything that's got kind of a weird crunch sound to it.
I don't know, I guess nothing's really just speaking to me. Really, because everything.
So you kind of get the gist of what the scene is. It's a long walk. They're in a mall. They're shopping. There's a few things going on here. So one of the things going on here, I stopped it probably not in a great place, but here's one sound effect. It looks like a chain, purse. But those that know, and a lot of women here have purses, know there's probably a leather strip running up this chain, and it's silent. It doesn't make a noise, but the director says, God, I don't hear the chain. Job security. So that's one sound. This bag here, this is just her sound. So I'm gonna walk her by herself with that bag. And then I'm gonna walk her with her bag, and then I'm gonna walk her with her bag, and I'm gonna walk her with her bag, and the other girls. Those are all different cues that I sit there and I walk each one individually, because you as a designer want to be able to control those sounds. Sound's a hurdle. Everybody knows that sound is one of the most difficult things to capture on a set. When I was a first AD, one of the things I always got from directors was, don't worry about the sound, just roll the camera. And I'm like, I fought to build the set to get the sound guy hidden over here and get the mics and everything in place, and now you're saying don't worry about it because he's not ready in 2 seconds? It really comes down to the final mix in the end and how the quality of that. If you've seen the remake, the Blu-ray Master of Rudy, or Some Like It Hot, or any of those movies, you'd see my work, you'd hear it all the time. You wouldn't know half of my work because it just blends in that well. Not me, because the designers did it. GotFoley.com. Got Foley? Product of the 80s. Thank you, guys. Thank you.